Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. After losing his wings, a young ladybug must face the challenges of the forest and risk his own life to save his ant siblings. Today we will recap the story of the 2013 movie, Minuscule, Valley of the Lost Ants. On a beautiful Sunday, a newlywed couple decides to have a picnic in the forest. That afternoon, while reading a book, the pregnant woman begins to feel contractions and informs her husband that her waters have burst. Immediately, the man takes the picnic basket, along with his belongings, and runs with his wife to the car, leaving all the food behind. That same day, 3 new ladybugs are born in that forest. Their parents try to teach them to fly, but since they are still learning how to use their wings, one of the ladybugs falls and hears a small fly mocking him. When the insect leaves, the ladybug tries to fly again and goes exploring the forest together with the rest of his family. Minutes later, while flying over a pond, the ladybug encounters the same fly, and again the insect laughs in his face. Annoyed, the ladybug chases after the creature, but ends up falling into a trap. When the insects land, the fly's relatives appear and try to corner the ladybug. At that instant, the poor thing takes off to try to escape, but is pursued by the gang of flies. During his escape, he crashes against a rock and falls into a hole hidden beneath the rock. As it falls, the ladybug loses one of its wings and faints. The flies go there to check if their enemy has been killed, and when they find the insect unconscious, they decide to leave. Hours pass and night comes with a storm. When the ladybug finally wakes up, he realizes that he is no longer able to fly. Frightened by the hundreds of eyes watching him, he decides to walk through the forest in search of a safe place to hide from the storm. The insect tries to hide under some mushrooms, but is forced to leave when it realizes that sinister snails dominate that area. A few meters ahead, the ladybug finds a can and enters through a small opening in the lid. Although he is alone and afraid, he realizes that this is the perfect place to spend the night. The next morning, the little one hears all different kinds of insects walking around the can. He soon discovers that the place is a gold mine and that everyone is fighting over who will get the biggest share of the food. Even a box of matches is a cause of dispute among the bedbugs. A short time later, a group of ants approaches the site carrying some supplies. At this point, Mandible realizes that there might be something interesting in that place and asks his team to wait while he goes to check it out. Seeing the insect approaching, the ladybug goes back into the can to hide and the ant goes after it. After eating a piece of the sugar lump, the little creature suffers an energy spike and calls his friends to help him bring that sacred food to the colony. Then the ants abandon the food they have gathered from the forest and spread out around the can, carrying the object away. Meanwhile, the ladybug remains hidden inside, not understanding what is happening. He only realizes that something is wrong when the ants try to cross a wall of stones and the clumps inside the can begin to move from side to side. Seconds later, the can is knocked over along with Mandible and the sugar lumps are thrown out, as is the ladybug. While the workers are putting the sugar back in the can, they find the insect lying on its stomach and Mandible tries to help it up. Startled, the ladybug lets out an extremely deadly gas to defend himself, causing the ant to faint. Next, a lizard appears and walks towards its prey. The ants hide behind the clumps of sugar in the hope of not being seen. However, Mandible is found and is about to be devoured. In order to save the insect, the ladybug returns to the can and starts making a terrifying noise in an attempt to drive the animal away. Frightened, the reptile leaves and the ants manage to survive another day in the forest. As a thank you for saving his group, Mandible adopts the ladybug and invites him to become part of his team. Now the little red beetle is no longer alone. The ants continue to walk their long way to the colony and remain persevering as they face a variety of challenges. Even several meters away, Mandible is able to communicate with the members of his colony through his antennae and announces that he will soon be arriving home. The workers walk under the rock carrying the gigantic object when they are spotted by a group of red ants, led by the cruel Buter. Buter and his gang surround the passage and wish to fight over the food, but in an attempt to restore peace, Mandible takes a lump of sugar and gives it to his enemies. Then the group of black ants leaves, but the red ants are not satisfied with that little clump and decide to chase their opponents. Realizing that his team is in danger, Mandible devises an escape plan, which consists of using gravity to his advantage to climb down the mountain on top of the can, together with all the members of his team. But Buter does not intend to give up so easily and uses a rusty soda can to roll down the mountain. Soon after, the two groups fall into a waterfall and are carried away by the current. They must dodge some rocks on the way to continue on their way, until the red ants manage to catch up with their opponents and push the container where they are. At that moment the ladybug falls into the water and is carried away by the current while being chased by a fish. The animal swims away at high speed until it hits its head on a rock. However, he soon recovers and continues his hunt. While the fish tries to reach the ladybug, The black ants unite to form a bridge and pull their friend out of the water. When they realize that they have reached the end of the waterfall, the insects hide in the sugar can to protect themselves from the fall. Still, they are not alone. The weird fish and the red ants are coming right behind. The soda sinks and gets stuck in the sand, so the gang is forced to abandon the boat. The fish has the same fate, however, his situation is even worse, for he cannot dig his own head out of the sand. As they approach the banks of the waterfall, Mandible and his group decide to leave the can behind and go on their way carrying only the clumps. Along the way, Ladybug finds his old family flying through the forest and tries to keep up with them. However, he still has only one of his wings and cannot fly. Frustrated, he returns to the trail and once again accompanies the ants. During the night, they must find a safe place to rest in order to have the energy to finish the mission the next day. What they don't realize is that the red ants are still after the sugar and follow the tracks of their rivals, just waiting for the right moment to strike. Luckily, the ladybug realizes that his friends are being chased and manages to alert Mandible in time. The black ants run to cross the street, and when they see a vehicle approaching, Buter's gang gets scared and takes off, leaving their leader alone. When they arrive at the colony, the workers take the food inside and Mandible realizes that his friend, Ladybug, is not comfortable in that place. After all, he is the only different insect. So Mandible invites his friend to accompany him and presents each piece of the colony in order to make Ladybug feel part of this big family. The workers bring all kinds of food to the queen, and each time she feeds, the giant ant lays an egg. Now it is Mandible's turn to present his offering. By taking a small bite out of the clump, the queen is filled with energy and releases thousands of eggs at once. Outside the colony, Buter is hiding, planning an ambush against his enemies. After observing the weak points of its opponents, the ant returns to its anthill and walks to the queen's room. After informing His Highness of what has happened, the creature suggests declaring war against the rival ants. Upon hearing the words of his advisor, the queen orders her workers to unite to attack the enemy colony and steal the sacred food. Immediately, the thousands of ants walk in ranks, armed to the teeth with sticks and thorny plants. The goal is to reach enemy territory by nightfall, and the army succeeds in accomplishing this goal. At dusk, the black ants close their colony and prepare to rest. As he sleeps, the ladybug dreams of his family and imagines the day when he can fly again under the flower beds, tasting the delicious nectar of the plants. Suddenly, during the dream, the insect wakes up and goes outside. The ladybug tests its wings and tries to fly again, but its new wing is still being born and is not strong enough to lift its body weight. But instead of feeling discouraged, the little red ladybug has its hopes renewed and is happy at the thought that it will soon be able to fly again. The next morning, the black ants are awakened by an earthquake. They all leave the colony to find out what is going on and soon find the powerful enemy army approaching. The lunatics show up with slingshots, forks, and even insecticides. All this to get a few of sugar lumps. The red ants use slingshots to shoot all sorts of weapons at the rival colony, but the black ants do not let this attack come cheap. They throw cotton swabs and aspirin to eliminate those monsters. However, the chance of winning the battle is still very low. Despite being in their territory, the black ants did not count on having their home destroyed by gunfire from metal objects. In an emergency meeting with the queen, Mandible discovers that there are some bombs hidden in the colony and this is the perfect moment to use them. The ants spread their arsenal on top of the colony, while their enemies try to break in using a pine cone to knock down the stone gate. After reading the instructions for use located on the matchbox, Mandible takes the only matchstick available and manages to light the fire by rubbing the tip of the match against the side of the box. He then lights one of the wicks. After flying everywhere, the firecracker returns to the ground and, coincidentally, destroys a good part of the enemy troop. However, before Mandible can light the rest of the firecrackers, the fire goes out and, realizing this, Buter orders his soldiers to attack with full force, throwing forks and bombs everywhere. Ladybug knows that the only way for his friends to survive is to use the firecrackers to defend themselves. While looking at the matchbox, he remembers that he saw something similar in the middle of the forest where the can with the sugar lumps was. The little creature then has the idea of going there to get the box, and receives full support from Mandible, who instructs the workers to make a little plane with a bill to get the ladybug out safely. The red ants try to spray insecticide on the ladybug, but the poison ends up returning on themselves and knocks out part of their army. When the plane loses altitude and flips over, the ladybug manages to fly on his own, because his wing has grown long enough. In this instant, he becomes the only hope for the colony. The insect makes the reverse journey to return to the place where it all began. It takes a few short pauses to feed, and then keeps going, until it realizes that its wings have completely recovered. Upon arriving at the picnic site, the little red beetle realizes that all the food has been taken, but the matchbox remains there. He tries to lift the object, but he can't carry all that weight. Suddenly, a small spider appears and the ladybug hides. The arachnid takes the box and carries it away, but the ladybug goes after it. After all, he needs those matches to save his friends. Again, the little ladybug crosses the forest. It is already night and he continues walking in order to find out where that spider intends to take the object. The hairy creature enters a tunnel and the ladybug carefully walks through it, aiming to find a way to steal that box. When it reaches the end of the tunnel, the insect is surprised to discover that the spider lives inside a doll's house and proceeds in silence so as not to be noticed. Meanwhile, a frog is on the prowl, hiding in a puddle of water, waiting for an opportunity to swallow its prey. The ladybug walks through the house and spots the spider using the matchsticks as a frame to build his web. At that moment, the amphibian appears at the window and sticks its sticky tongue on the insect. It then drags the ladybug along as he desperately tries to get free. Upon realizing the invasion, the spider is startled and everything gets worse in the next few seconds when the ladybug clings to the window while being pulled along, and as a result, the house ends up falling on top of the frog. After the fall, the ladybug loses consciousness and dreams, once again, of the day he can fly free with his family through the forest. When he wakes up, he realizes that he has been rescued by the spider, who soon offers a fruit for his colleague to eat. After feeding, the little red one informs his that he needs to take that box of matches to save his friends, and the spider claims not to care. Now, with a few less sticks, the box is much lighter and the ladybug can carry it during the flight. With part of its mission complete, the insect will have to face another long journey to get the box to the colony in time. If it takes too long to reach the colony, it may be too late, and the red ants will have already won the war. Halfway there, the little one spots a gang of insects cornering another ladybug and realizes that these are the same flies that caused him to lose his wing. Furious, he drops the box and goes to face those delinquents. The ladybug releases a gas at one of the flies' faces in order to lure them into a trap. The first attempt is to get the insects stuck in a spider's web, but they are flying so fast that they get through the web. The second strategy is to attract them to the streets. When it spots an approaching car, the ladybug flies toward it and swerves at the last second. However, the flies fail to swerve and are knocked over as they collide with the vehicle's headlight. After getting rid of those delinquents, the ladybug returns to check if his colleague is okay and gets a kiss as a form of thanks. Then the couple says goodbye, for the little creature has a duty to perform, but before he leaves, he promises that they will meet again soon. When the colony was already practically destroyed and all seemed lost for the black ants, they hear the arrival of their ladybug friend, who is arriving with reinforcements. It is late afternoon the next day, which means that the battle began more than 24 hours ago. After greeting his good friend, Mandible and his team light all the firecrackers at once and wait. The fireworks start spinning wildly around the anthill and some explode into the sky, creating a beautiful light show. However, most of them come back and explode, along with the red ants. A fire is caused and the insecticide explodes due to the heat, eliminating even more invaders. Faced with this, Buter and his soldiers' only option is to retreat. The problem now is to get that fire put out, because at the end of the battle the fire continues. Luckily, seeing the smoke coming from the forest, the humans send a plane to fight the fire, and all the insects manage to survive. The next morning, the ants come out of their burrow and look ruefully at what is left of their colony. Weeks have passed since the war and now Ladybug has his own family. The insect teaches all his family to fly, and together they fly over a flower bed, just as the ladybug always dreamed. Meanwhile, the ants are hard at work rebuilding the anthill, because very soon winter will arrive and they need to be prepared. After all they went through together, Mandible and the ladybug remained great friends and were never separated again. So, what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.